Hey y'all, it's Val with Our Forever Farm. I thought I'd show you what I just got out of my little garden. Oh my goodness. It's October and we're still getting this many vegetables. So I thought I'd show you how I fry okra along with some other things. Just my day today. I'm cooking a country meal, just vegetables. It's going to be so good. So Sweet Hunter likes his okra a little bit burned. So what I'm doing right here is I'm just cutting it up and I'm going to put some cornmeal on it. I don't use flour, I only use cornmeal. But to fry your okra, you have to have some kind of breading on it. And so you can use flour if that's what you're used to. You can use both, but I just use cornmeal because that's the way I was taught. Now, our okra here in Georgia, it will usually last until frost. And our first frost should be this month. I'm not sure. It's October. I season my okra with just salt and pepper. Anyway, we've had a problem with deer getting in our okra, but it sure hasn't stopped it from growing. I usually just use a little vegetable oil and cover the bottom of my iron skillet with it. And then I try to get my pan hot, and I test it by putting one okra in. And when I see it sizzling, then I know I can add the rest of the okra. Now, while I get that started on the stove top, I'm going to go ahead and mix up some cornbread. And I'll link my cornbread video in the description box. This is my best friend Vicky's cornbread. I make it all the time. It's delicious. I grew up watching my mom and dad both make cornbread, and they always put an egg in it. Vicky never used an egg, and honestly, it's the best cornbread I've ever put in my mouth. I remember one time my best friend Vicky telling me, "You make it better than me." And I thought, yeah, right. It's actually her mom's recipe. It was the first video I ever did on my channel here. I was terrified when I did it. You can go back and find that video if you want to. It's the very first video I did. I was scared to death. My granddaughter filmed it. We didn't know what we were doing, and I would get real tickled. But Vicky is the one that suggested me making this as my first video. And for you that don't know, Vicky went to heaven about 3 years ago. So we miss her a lot. And every time I make her cornbread, of course I think of her. Well, the cornbread's going in the oven. I have it preheated to 500 degrees. And again, I'll link that video in the description box. So let's go back to our okra. You can see how it's browned on the stove. That's the way Sweet Hunter's granny taught me to do it. She taught me to brown it on the stove and finish it off in the oven. So my oven, again, is at 500, and I've got my cornbread in. And it's going to cook right along with that. Now I need to get started on these vegetables that I got out of the garden. So I'm going to work on the green beans first, and I'm going to do a quick vinegar wash. I always wash my vegetables in a vinegar wash. It doesn't matter if it's white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, but I just let it soak, and then I usually wash them 3 times. So now I'm just checking the okra, and I'm going to turn it one more time and put it back in the oven. Sweet Hunter does like his a little burnt, so that right there might be perfect for you. I'm going to try to finish up these beans and get them washed, trying to use my time wisely while I'm cooking supper. When I do garden vegetables and I wash them, I usually lay a towel out where they can dry, and these right here will probably dry overnight because Sweet Hunter and I probably will not get to them today. We usually will break beans when we watch TV at night. Well, the cornbread's done. Now, this is a little bit thicker than we like it. We like it thin and crunchy, but this will be fine. It will be delicious. And one little trick that Vicky always told me, she said get it as brown as you can on the top, because the browner it is on the top, the crustier it'll be on the bottom. Well, the okra's done. Let's see if it's ready. I believe I'm going to put the okra back in for just a few minutes. He likes it pretty done. Look how easy that cornbread came out. But look, it left a little bit in the pan. And you know what? That will not hurt a thing. I just scraped that right off. And you'll see in a minute, you won't even be able to tell that it wasn't on there when you flipped it. It just stuck to the pan a little bit. It happens to all of us. And as you can see, I fixed that right up. It comes right out of the pan. Look, can you tell? Nobody else will know it but me and you. It's amazing what women do. We cook supper, we wash vegetables, we do so many things. We multitask. So I've got all the green beans washed and they're ready to just sit there overnight. Now we're going to work on our cherry tomatoes. I have really enjoyed having these tomatoes. I think Stacy planted 2 different kinds and I planted 2 different kinds. One of the ones that I've really enjoyed is those sun gold. You can see the gold colored tomatoes. I have really enjoyed those. And they make I've told you this before, these cherry tomatoes make a wonderful pasta sauce. All I do is I wash these really good and then I rinse them as I remove the stems. And then I let them drain and I'll let them dry on the towel just like I do the green beans. So while those are draining, I'm going to check the okra real quick. And yep, I believe it's done. And I serve it right out of the iron skillet. And I had about half a cabbage in the refrigerator, so I got my Nakano knife out and I chopped it up. And I'm just going to chop this cabbage in the food processor and add some mayonnaise and salt and pepper, and we'll have slaw. By the way, this knife is very, very nice. They sent it to me to try out, and I've had it on my video several times, and I love it. And the link is in the description box if you're interested. So while we're waiting on this to chop up, I thought I would just point out my shirt. I'm sure you've noticed it. God bless America. Lord, let's pray for Israel. Let's pray for the USA. Let's pray for our election. Right now, as you know, this world is kind of in a mess. Food is so expensive. Gas is expensive. Everything is. This world is in a mess. And the only way we can get out of this is voting and prayer. So no matter how you vote, let me encourage you to vote. It is a privilege. It is an honor. Many have died for us to have this right. By the way, that is homemade mayonnaise, and I'll link that video in the description box also. You know, we women, we do a lot. But when I go back and edit my videos, I don't really realize how much I do in one day, and this is just a few minutes of my day. She looketh well to the ways of her household. I love that verse. I believe it's Proverbs 31:27. It says it all. She looketh well to the ways of her household. And in the midst of doing all the vegetables and cooking supper, Sweet Hunter says, "Hey Val, have you thought about making homemade ice cream lately? We hadn't had any in a while, have we?" He loves my vanilla ice cream, so what do? I get busy and whip that up for him. This is actually Sweet Hunter's aunt's recipe, and it's so easy and it's easy to remember, and I'll link that video in the description box also. Thank you, Evelyn. We think of you every time we make this. This recipe has 5 things: milk, pet milk, sugar, eggs, and vanilla. Very easy to remember. I always like to taste this just to make sure it's perfect before I mix it up. And warning, there is raw eggs in this, so if you have a problem with that, you might want to find another recipe. Well, supper's done. Just a simple country meal from the garden: Vicky's cornbread, fried okra, mashed potatoes, and slaw. Ice cream's in the freezer. Y'all go cook something.